Okay, then I think that we might still have a few students still yet to join us, but I did promise to all of those students who are on the line that we would start at 2 p.m. So I don't want to start too late. We've got loads of students on the line, so that's a really good sign. And like I was just saying, we've had lots of people writing into the chat box about what they might be interested in. So that's really exciting as well, because you're definitely in the right place to learn a little bit more about the NHS and specifically a project that's gone on to help young people understand what might be right for them in the industry. So my name's Ellie and I work at Pathway CTM. I'm sure some of you might recognise my face because I have done quite a few of these webinars over the past few months. So of our daily sessions where we help support young people in understanding a little bit more about brands that are on offer, about employability skills and things like that. And what I always want to start a session off by saying is, well done, you're already a step closer to getting towards a goal that you're thinking about, because you're using your time while you're at home to learn a little bit more about brands and about employability skills. So firstly, you're showing that kind of proactivity. Secondly, you're showing kind of interest in learning a little bit more about what's out there. So well done to you, and this is definitely something you can talk about later down the line, when you might be looking at a role in the NHS and you can say you used your Thursday lunchtime during kind of lockdown to learn a little bit more about what role might be right for you. So really well done for joining us. I'm also joined today by Monty from our side. I don't know, want to give us a little bit of a hello.
Hi guys, I'm Winky, and it's really nice to see you guys here, and I hope this session is going to be really, really useful. And like Ellie said, like well done on like your first. This is like a great step of you guys just coming onto the session, and really show your interest and show your passion. So well done, and I hope you find this really useful.
Absolutely brilliant. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead through this first introduction session, and then I'm going to hand over to our special guest who's joining us today. So don't worry, you will get an introduction in that sense. So today we're going to be talking about what role might be right for you within the NHS, if you are interested in that, and a project that's been going on, like I mentioned earlier. So rather than me talking about it, I'm going to save the details to the special guest who we've got on the line today. So what's the agenda of today? So I'm going to be running this introduction, talking to you a little bit more about how you can engage with us, how you can ask questions, and how you can get the most out of today's session. And then I'm going to be handing over, when it comes to the main content, to our special guest from the NHS. And then we'll work through a bit more of a background around that project and how it works, with a little bit of interaction in there. So do get ready to write into the chat box like you have been doing. It's really impressive, and we like to see that you're already engaging with us through that. And then at the end of the session, once we've wrapped that up and once we've been through the project and a small kind of interactive task, then we're going to be having a section for kind of Q&A. So asking some questions based on these interests, which lots of you, Sarah might have some questions around wanting to go into biomedical science, and Eve might have some questions around mental health. We're not promising that we'll be able to answer every single question, but what you will be able to do is use today to get a step closer to where you might be able to find out the answer to those questions that you do have. So we're expecting it to be around a 45-minute session based on the number of questions you do have. So just so you know at the beginning of the session, that's how long it's going to be, and it will have a little bit of interactivity in it. So do get ready to kind of get involved if you're keen. So I've spoken about being interactive. I've spoken about asking questions and encouraging you to do that. But how do you do that? I can see from the large number of attendees, actually, which is brilliant, that we've got some people who have joined us via phone and some people who have joined us via laptop or computer. Both are absolutely fine. If you're on your laptop or computer, then there are two real ways you can interact with us. So lots of you have already used that chat box. So you can see it where people have put in the example of the interest that they are kind of looking towards for the NHS. So any comments you have throughout the session, do write them in that Zoom webinar chat box. So I know later down the line we might be encouraging you to do that. So that's somewhere that you can, throughout the whole session, write comments in there and get involved. Secondly to that, then we do have a Q&A box. So any questions you have which might not be relevant to that specific time in the session, or you might just have a question around anything to do with today's session or anything to do with any of the roles that are mentioned or the NHS as a whole, then I would ask you to put them in the Q&A box. And the reason I ask you to do that is because myself and Monty will be on the session, we'll be looking at those questions and making sure that all of them are answered when we get to the Q&A section at the end of the session today. So any questions, pop them in the Q&A box. Any comments or to get interactive with the different elements of today's session, then pop them in the chat box instead. For those of you who are dialed in on your phone, you might not be able to use those functions if you don't have the app. That's absolutely fine. So what you can do is you can text back to the number that reminds you about today's session with any questions you might have. And equally, we will send round this session to everyone who has been on it today, whether it's a phone in or whether it's on the laptop. So don't worry, you won't miss out and you'll be able to ask any questions to us afterwards. So without kind of further ado, and without me just speaking the whole way through the session, we are lucky enough to actually be joined from someone from the NHS themselves, who really is the specialist rather than me. So Rachel, I'm just going to hand over to you and wonder if you could give us a bit of an intro to kind of who you are and what you do really.
Thank you, Eliana. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to your audience, and thank you for those of you who have taken the time out to join us today. It's a great opportunity to be working with you. Thank you for setting this up, Ellie. A little bit about myself. My name is Rachel Armour, like the slide says, and I am the JTC, which is Jobs That Care, the abbreviation, lead for Southwest London CCG. Now, what CCG means, because the NHS has a lot of acronyms, we're funky with acronyms, is Clinical Commissioning Group. I would encourage you to read up about NHS because it's quite large with a variety of different arms that, make up what NHS is all about. I think after this session, what I'll do is give you a link, Ellie. There is a free online website where you could learn a lot about NHS. I think they do the course once a year. I think it should be coming up about this time so they could enroll on it, and it tells them how the NHS started up, how it was developed, and how it's run. So a little bit about myself. I work with Southwest London CCG, Clinical Commissioning Group, but primarily I'm from Epsom and St Helier Trust, which is in Surrey, Sutton. I'm on secondment with the CCG at the moment, and I'm the HR, Human Resources and Organizational Development Business Support Officer. I know it's a very long title. It's just HR and OD. Okay, and I don't know if you know what HR is all about, but every organization has a HR function. So what we do, we deal with recruitment, managing people management, and also performance management. So we are the glue that holds the organization together, and that's where I'm seated, but a little bit different from what a normal HR professional will do, in the sense that my job in the CCG has to do with workforce planning and workforce transformation. And when we talk about workforce, we mean people capital, people resources. So we are more about getting people into the NHS and then supporting those that are in NHS to do better, to do their job, and then, allowing them to transition to different parts of NHS, so that it's not as if they're going out. So that I could move from a trust to a GP, from a GP back into a CCG, just moving around within different organizations, but still be in the umbrella of the NHS. As a result of my present job, we have been told to lead Jobs That Care, and it's been an interesting journey, because we get to go to schools. So basically what Jobs That Care is a school program that the NHS has created. Basically it's Health Education England, HEE, Health Education England is the training arm of the NHS. So they are responsible for learning and development. And with the long-term plan that came out last year or the year before, one of the things we have been told to do is build up the NHS. You know, make sure that we have a steady flow of people coming into work. So my organization, Southwest London CCG and HEE, decided to come together and, you know, put their heads together to say, okay, what can we do? What program can we do to educate the public, most especially the young ones, of what it's like to have a career in the NHS? So we came up with the Jobs That Care school program. So we reached out to a company called Focus Games. They are a digital training company that deliver training using board games to make it interactive. So they helped us with the design of that. And then we also reached out to Enact Solution. That's another training company, but they do theirs by acting. So we use those two to do the launch. And since then, the feedback has been fantastic. We've gone across schools in Southwest London, and so far so good. We've had a lot of interest saying back to the schools. We want to know more. The career team are amazed at job roles or what the game is all about. They are not aware of, like, oh, I didn't know I could do that in there. So that's what game is. It's basically that is designed to help people, the young ones, understand and know about many job roles that we have within the NHS or within the health and social care sector. Because when we talk about health and social care sector, that means we're looking at care homes, community care, hospitals, GP practices, and all that stuff. So it's not just the hospitals or the GPs. You also have community care. We have nurses there, and you could work there. You have doctors, we have physiotherapists, and then we have the social care. Obviously, if you listen to the news and the briefing, the COVID-19 briefing, you would know that there are many arms of the healthcare sector today. One thing I would like to say here is okay, can I ask a question? How many job roles do you think we have in the NHS, in the health and social care?
That's an amazing
Between
question.
100 and 500. Do you want to guess?
I said that's an amazing question. Maybe in the chat box, some people can guess. Yeah, we've seen a few coming through.
Maybe 80?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? 90? 350? Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. The actual correct number, I did say it while I was waiting. Yeah. We have about 350 different job roles within the health and social care sector. Good. Thank you all for participating. That's good. Thank you. Like I said, the board game is quite interactive, it's collaborative, it's competitive, it can be played by a minimum of 4 to 8 people in pairs. So basically you're playing team against team. The game itself is about 30 minutes. But when we come to a school, because your school period is about 60 minutes, we've designed it in such a way that it lasts 60 minutes. So there's an introduction before we do the game, and then there's a roundup where we ask a couple of questions and we interact with students to get feedback from them. But the main board game itself is about 30 minutes. It's just 30 minutes. And you could play one-on-one. So I could say, yes, though we say it's a minimum of 4 people, but 2 people could also play it. So I could play with you earlier, and then that way it's designed to bring about discussions, because the way it's designed, it uses cards. So we have a roll card, and then we have a quiz card, and we have a event card. So all these, so you ask you a question and say, look, what would you do? And then you look at your roll card, and then we begin to ask questions. So sometimes you're informed about different things you weren't aware of, or you like basically you watch films. I don't know who watched Grey's Anatomy or Hobie City. So those things play into mind because you're able to answer a couple of the questions. So that's what it's all about. And it's quite competitive because I would say, no, it's me against you, and then we work that way. But it's a mixture of everything. So it's a bit of snake and ladder and cards, words. So we've made it very, very, very interactive and, you know, designed with the youths in mind. Right now we have 2 board games. We have the JTC one, which is for year 8, 9 and 10. And then we've designed one for year 16 years and above. And that has a lot. The difference between the 2 is one has just the job roles, which I'll show you shortly, and one has the salary range, especially for those that are 16 and above that would like to know how much they would earn if they were to work in the NHS. So we've included that. We do have a website and we have a Twitter account. Unfortunately, we do not have like a proper app. What we have is a web app, means you could play the game online, and we have a digital game as well. All that is available on the website, which is givingthejobsbackend.co.uk. So I'll say after this session, please take time to visit the website and, you know, I'm sure you just play the game. So next slide, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that, we can share that URL with everyone who's on the session today. So you can go ahead and do that afterwards. So we'll make sure that we share that with you.
Oh, thank you. So this is what the board game looks like. And you can see it looks like, you know, snake and ladder. So there's a start to the finish. There are different points. So I'll show you the cards, and you would see that each square there represents the type of cards that are used to play the game. And we've made it quite interactive in the sense that we've put some minus and plus to make you either go backwards or forward. So that's basically what it is. The background was designed by a colleague called Dave. His name is David. He's very artistic, and I'm sure you guys have seen sketch notes from other artists. You know, I think that's the in thing today. When you go for workshops or training, there's someone doing a sketch of what the training is all about, and it brings in one place what you've learned. So that's what we've done with the board game itself. Next one. So this is an example of the role card. And you can see there it has a job title. It has 3 descriptions of what the job role is all about. And then it has a breakdown of what qualifications you would need to do the job and where you find that in society. So take, for instance, this one, which says paramedic. I know one of you said she would like, or he or she would like to be a paramedic. And it says, what do they do? Clearly says they are senior healthcare professionals and they work in a 2-person ambulance crew, and they make life-saving decisions, and they use high-tech equipment. They can walk alone. I know I've seen, you know, you would have seen some on motorbikes and, you know, all that. And it shows here that you can study for this qualification. Either when it says vocation, it means apprenticeship. When it says degree, it means university. And it tells you you need 5 GCSE or 2 to 3 A levels to enroll for whichever of, you know, route you want to study for this qualification. And it goes on to tell you on the right side, location. So where would you find that in society? Would you find them in GP practices? Before? No. Now, going in the future, we would thinking of adding them onto GP practices. Yes, they are situated in hospitals at the moment. They are also part of the community, but they are definitely not situated with social care. Okay, so that's how the card is designed. The next card is the event card. So what it is you'll be given a set of role cards, 3 role cards, and you'll be asked to respond to a scenario, which is an event. So this event says a man has been taken to the hospital with chest pains in his chest, and he needs to go for some scans. Now, whoever's reading this would not read out the answers to you, but I'm showing this to you so you know what the game looks like. and you'll be told to choose one role. So you would look at your role cards and you read the description of the job role and check for yourself if that job title can respond to this situation. So on the right side, you've already been told the answer. So you've been told emergency doctor, nurse, cardiac scientist, clinical radiology, and adult nurse. But this answer is not all that there is. There are more people within a hospital setting, within the NHS, that can respond to this guy's situation, okay? So don't think that because we've just given you about 5 answers, that's it. No, there are more people. So once you look at the cards, and once, obviously, I watch Grey's Anatomy a lot, and I know different things, and that has helped me in my understanding about different little things. So obviously you could ask a couple of questions to say, I think this would respond, and then, yeah, we would agree with you on whichever the answer is. The next card, please. Thank you. Now, this is this quiz card. Now, the quiz is just to make it interactive. We have 2 types. We have a multiple choice question, and we have a true or false questions. I have a couple that I want to ask you, okay? So this is what it looks like, and this is the real one I'm going to ask you guys right now. So, question, this is a true or false question. The NHS is the largest employer in the world. True or false? What do you think?
Guys, I'll give you a few minutes in the chat box, but maybe, yeah, we've got a few coming through now.
False.
So put in your true or false.
True. False. True.
Wow, it's about a 50% split at the moment. That's great, guys. Well done.
Okay.
Monty, what do you think?
I think it's one of the biggest, but I don't think it is the biggest. I remember reading it somewhere, but I can't 100% remember, but I think it's one of the biggest, not the biggest.
Okay. Okay. You're very, very correct. Okay. It's false. It's definitely false. It is the 5th largest employer in the world. The first is the US Department of Defense. The second is People's Liberation Army in China. The third is Walmart. And the 4th is McDonald's, and we come in 5th.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Impressive.
That's so interesting.
So, but I think we are the largest employer in Europe, though. Not in the world, but in Europe we are. Okay. Next question. How many people work in the NHS? A, 2,000. B, 200,000. C, 2 million.
C's. 200,000, that's B. So
Is that correct? That's B, yeah.
B.
That's B. C. Yeah. Well done, guys. Well done. Well done. Okay, this is one question I would like you guys to answer. I want to know those who have been listening to the COVID brief and every other news about, the healthcare sector. If you have an urgent healthcare need that is not an emergency, which number should you call? A, 000, B, 111, C, 222.
I'm getting some answers before you even read them out.
Yeah, that's great. Everyone knows what to do. Amazing.
Oh, good.
Good engagement.
Good.
Well done, guys.
Good. Okay. One more question. How much does it cost to run the NHS in England? A, 10 million, B, 100 million, C, 100 billion.
I think I'd guess B. I don't know.
I think C.
C.
100 billion.
Yeah, it's C, 100 billion.
Oh, wow. Some great guesses.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
Good. Thank you guys for that. Just wanted to check, but that's good. Thank you all for participating. So we'll go on to the next slide. Yes. So this is how the board game is usually set up. So we place the board game in the center, and then we give each team 3 job role cards, and then we'll put the rest on the side with the event cards. Now, looking at the board game, you will see it has green and orange squares. Now, the green square is, if you land on the green square, you get asked an event question, okay? And then you use your job role cards to respond to that question. If you land on the orange square, then you'll be asked the quiz question like I did. Now, the way it works is, if you get the event question correctly, that is, if you have a job role that can respond to that event, then you move forward on the board. If you get the quiz correct, then you get an extra role card. So we've made it in such a way that you're not always moving forward, but we've mixed it up. So you only move forward if you have a role card that can respond to the event that's being asked. And then you get an extra job role card when you get a quiz correct. And you can only have 5 role cards at any given time. So if you're very brainy and you keep getting all the quiz questions, you would have to keep swapping a card so that you remain within the max of 5 role cards. Now, there is a particular icon there I want to explain, which is head hunt. Does anyone know what head hunt is all about? I'll tell you. It's a terminology used in recruitment. It means it's used to recruit people that have a very peculiar skill. So you're a specialist and you're in demand. So what we will do in HR is we'll search the market. We'll talk to our colleagues to say, look, we need somebody that has this particular skill to come deliver this particular project. Who do you think is in the market? And if they give us your name, we would approach you and say, look, we've heard you're the best in the field. We want you to come work for us, okay? And then we'll say, name your price, or this is our price. So obviously, we'll come in with a package that would entice you to come join us. And that's what head hunting is all about. And sometimes it's not just a specialist skill. It might be that it's a general skill, but you're very, very good at it. So we might need you to come do something for us. So that's what headhunt is all about. And that's why we've added it there to say, look, amongst the job role cards, which one do you prefer from another team? Then you just take it. We've added a spice to it. That's it. So that's basically how the game is played. And that's to explain to you. So what the game does is it gives you likely scenarios that you would find in the health and social care sector, and it's giving you 52 cards, job role cards, with information to respond to these scenarios. And it's also giving you about 40 quiz questions to just, spice it up, to give you, ask you questions, general questions like, what's the largest organ on your body? Is it your nose, your skin, or your tongue? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. Skin.
Exactly. I asked this question in a particular group, and they kept on getting it. And the teacher was so happy. He was like, yes, you guys are learning well. I was like, yeah, but they're getting all my prices. But yeah, that's good. Yes, it is the skin. It is the skin. Good. So that's it. So we mixed it up with a little bit of science, chemistry, physics, and history about the health sector. So that way you know stuff. Yes. So that's the base, the game generally. And then this is, yes, the next slide, please. What I've done is I've added a likely scenario for you. So Danny, like he says, Danny injures himself. His friends call 911. I said 911, 999. And then a paramedic responds. They take him to A&E, and you could see the different job roles that respond to his incident. So we have the dispatcher, we have the paramedic, we have the porter, we have the receptionist, we have the nurse, we have the doctor, radiologist, phlebotomist, biomedical scientist, all that, all the way to the last. So this is a likely scenario that you would have been asked while playing the game. And you might probably have one or two or none in your card, but this is what happens in a health and social care environment. Okay, the next slide shows us a list of the people he saw during his incident and those that he didn't, but however they contributed. I'll give you an example. One of the schools that we went to, we spoke with an apprentice, and we asked him why he's studying biomedical science. And he said the reason was his grandfather had a heart attack, and he saw the paramedic come. They took his granddad to the A&E, the nurses, everything, all the care was good, but his grandfather needed a pace setter to make his heart work better, and he had the surgery. He was quite inquisitive. He was quite interested in those people who made the lasting difference. He wanted to know who made that pace setter that is sustaining his granddad. And then when he learned that it was part of, a biomedical scientist, he said, that's what I want to do. I might not be out there in front, but at least I'm making a life-changing decision for someone. And that led him to be a biomedical scientist. And that was very, very, very interesting. So from this list that you see before you, you can see different people who aren't in the forefront, but they make the health and social care sector work. They make it run smoothly. So an accountant would handle transactions from the government into the hospital, with procurement or communication and PR staff would do comms within, and even with, because we do a lot of public engagements with public and patients to ask them for their feedback on how we could serve the community better. A communication person will come into play with that. IT, obviously, we're using Zoom today. We have the same thing in the healthcare sector. We have the securities staff, because some people come into the emergency unit and they're traumatized. So they are distracted and they act out. We would need security to come help calm them down, to make sure that it's a safe working place for other people. And if you're admitted, we would need the laundry staff as well. If you're admitted, you need the chef that would give you your meal, okay? All these things come into play. These are the people that make the healthcare sector what it is today. So just don't think it's nurses, doctors, allied health professionals. There are other people that make the difference. Librarians, we have a very fantastic team in FCN and St. Helier, the library team. They are so innovative. They think of different ways to support staff with their learning. They make different sessions, lunch and learn, bite-sized sessions, making boring books easy. They help with your studies, with your research. You see, everyone makes a difference. So that's it for my example.
No, absolutely. And I have a few questions, but maybe I'll hold them, Rachel, for the next, after just you've gone through these. Okay. So there are different routes into the NHS. For myself, I came into the NHS by just directly applying for a job on jobs, NHS jobs. And one thing that helped me was I had already worked in the particular field I was applying for. So I applied to be a learning and organizational
development coordinator. But already worked in that field in another organization, BPP University. So that enabled me to come in, you know, I had the skills and the expertise they needed, and that gave me leverage and sort of opened the door for me into the NHS. But there are different ways you could come into the NHS. You could come through the apprenticeship at the moment. And the apprenticeship has gone through a number of developments, in the sense that before it was strictly vocational. There wasn't any, it was so practical, but right now there's a mixture. You could earn money, good money, while you're still studying. When I went to university, it was just university I went to. There was no option of apprenticeship. Now you guys have, you know, you have the T-levels, the BTech, you have apprenticeship, and then you have university. You know, the world is your oyster. So we have different levels of apprenticeship. And just like it says there, they are degree levels as well. It's still in the making, but it's growing. It's really growing. The second option is straight into a job, which I did, or after an approved higher education course. Some people do that. I have a colleague that did diploma and came in, and she'd been with the NHS for 15 years, but she changed, okay? And then even after a first full-time degree, or after gaining experience outside of the NHS, and that's what I did. So I'll give you a bit of my career pathway, and I keep saying that no career pathway is set in stone. So where you start is not definitely where you end, okay? I studied biological sciences in university, and I love the chromosomes, the genes so well. I wanted to be a geneticist, but it wasn't available in my country. So when I came out, I joined the labor market in the retail section. And I moved from a one-man business to telecoms. And from telecoms, I moved into banking. And from banking, I moved into tertiary education. And from tertiary education, I moved into voluntary sector. I worked with UNICEF UK, and then I went into housing organization as well. And then finally, I came into the NHS. Do you see my road? It was like, whoops, like that. Okay. It wasn't set in stone, but the good thing was the skills I learned, the skills I developed in each of these organizations helped me move forward. So one thing that stood out along in my career path was everywhere I walked, I learned all there was about the organization. And I learned it so well, I was always asked to train new recruits. So when I was in, Multilinks, they said, could you train? I trained. When I was in the bank, I was a supervisor, I had to do training. When I came into BPP University, the same thing, I had to train. And then from there, I just said, I went through redundancy, and the option came to work in HR, in the learning and development team. And I took it. I said, let me build this skill. And then from there, I've not looked back since then. And I've just continued on and on and on. So what I'm saying is, it's good to test the waters. It's good to move between sectors and organizations, but make sure there is a clear path, a link as you move on. The reason I say this is sometimes recruiters would say, why have you worked here? Why have you done this? Why have you done that? Why have you done this? You should be able to explain that link. Or sometimes the link should be clearly seen themselves. Okay? That's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's really good advice in terms of students, even if you're on the line and you're not 100% sure that you want to go down the NHS route, understanding and learning about different people's career paths shows that it's not just a straight line, and people, it's a bit of a wiggled line to get to where you want to go. So albeit here today we're talking about the NHS, but it's really useful anyway to kind of equip yourself with some extra skills for the working world. I had a couple of questions, Rachel. Do you mind if I kind of jump in now and say, because some of them are in line with some of the questions that are coming in from the students. So with this board game and this amazing kind of resource, I guess, to understand a bit more about the different roles of the NHS, does a player then, just for complete clarity, I guess, do they play the game then, and then by the end of it, they're meant to have understood a bit more about how they would address a task, and ultimately come at the end of it understanding how their skill set would fit into a particular role in the NHS? So is that kind of the goal of it, and you'd be able to do that?
Yes. So a player would, at the end of the game, like, some people would come having no clue about what types of jobs are in the NHS. So that would, increase that person's understanding and awareness. Some people might have an idea, but not understand all there is to a job. So the job role card will give you that information. In the beginning, I said the game itself is 30 minutes, but the session is 60 minutes. That's where we talk. So after we play the game, then we begin to ask questions about the job roles, about the NHS, about employability, about apprenticeship ways of entry into the NHS. And that's it. So it's like a conversation starter. It's like the building block to gathering information. It's not all there is. It's the beginning.
Amazing. And I guess those students that then told us at the beginning of the roles that they're interested in, and they think, I definitely want to be a paediatrician, then it's kind of thinking beyond that now and thinking, okay, I've decided that's the role I want, so I might not need to address which role I want, but it's more about understanding what that consists of before getting to the point that you're actually applying.
Yes. So usually when we finish playing the game, we have a little booklet which is available. It's on HEE's website, and it gives you a description, because what HEE has done is our website, and they have booklets on different types of roles within the NHS, and they break down for you specific roles within that career path. So you could start as a pharmacist technician all the way to a head of pharmacy, and it breaks down what needs to be done. Then it has a little booklet, which is something like this, and it gives you about 150 job roles within the NHS, and it breaks it down for you as well. So that's what we begin. So we give out this booklet, and then we start this conversation. Then we give you links, we give you all this, and then you go and you build up, you gather the information so you know for yourself what it is, because this is just telling you, but you have to go find out and decide for yourself if this is what you want to do, because that part it's for you to work, only you to work. So you have to know if you're able or capable of doing it. But it's not as difficult as it is. And we keep saying, because people think, it's quite difficult to get into the NHS. No, it's not. You don't need to have 5 A's and all that. You just need to be willing to learn. And you need one of the slides I have is about also the values that would stem from, that would give you leverage into coming to work for the NHS. When we do these sessions, one thing, because when I tell them, okay, so when it comes to skills, what do you think you have? And they're like, no, I don't have any. I've not worked anywhere else. I'm like, yeah. So I would ask, have you planned an outing with your friends? Have you planned a holiday? Have you created an itinerary of what you want to do when you go somewhere? It was like, oh yeah, I've done that. Then that means you're a good planner. How well did you execute that? So that is organizing and planning skill. Yes, you might not have done that in a work context, but in an organization, but you have done that in your life. Some people are very good at organizing. Some people are very good at motivating. Some people are very good at communicating. Some people are very good at listening. So all these things add to what you can do. your attributes. So we have that discussion and we begin to point out things that you might not be aware of, but you could add that to your CV, to your resume, or to say, I'm capable of doing this and I would like to build it further. And just like it shows here, those are the 6 values of the NHS. That's taken from our constitution. And it shows you must have compassion. What does compassion mean? You must listen to people. You must think for the, because what we do is for the betterment of the community that we live and serve. So we look to improve lives. We look to respect and deliver dignity to people that are in care. Okay, so it's not just, so if you're a phlebotomist and a phlebotomist takes blood, you won't come and just stab me with a syringe just to take my blood. You would have a conversation with me. You would explain what you're doing. Like I freak out when I have to, take an injection, whatever. But I had one time, I was in A&E for something, and I think I hurt my finger. It was really swollen. And the head of A&E came in and said, okay, I'm going to do this. And he kept explaining what he was going to do. And he was talking to me like he was looking at me. I didn't feel him when he pricked my finger, but he did.
Yeah, good technique.
You understand? So that is respect and dignity. So to me, I felt respected that he listened to me. He had a conversation with me while doing his job. Okay? And then there is no place in any organization that you would ever work alone. You might work in silo, like you're working maybe in a particular office, but you would need to interact with different people to make your job work or make things. So that means working together. So you must be a team player. Obviously, if you have friends and you have, you play, you have your gathering, your family, your community, you should be a team player. So these are all things that we talk about during the session. And that's where the game starts from. It gives us that leverage to begin this conversation.
Absolutely. And just conscious of time then, Rachel, just want to kind of flick through, I guess, to make sure that we can get some of these questions that have come in answered. So I don't know in this last one whether you want to just wrap up on this slide and then we'll move into the Q&A, if that's okay.
No, this was the question I asked about that was the question I asked about NHS being the largest employer. Course. So this is just to show you what it is. Yeah.
Amazing. Well,
this
perfect timing then.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for kind of talking us through the board game and how it would be used and giving us some examples of those. So we've had some other kind of questions in. So I'm going to kick off with one and then we're going to then Monty over to you for the next one. But we've had a question in saying, from an anonymous attendee saying, would you be able to work in the NHS as a doctor, even if you don't study biology or chemistry at A-level? Do you know that one? And don't worry if not.
To be a doctor, you would need sciences. It depends. To be a medical doctor, let me use it this way. To be a medical doctor, you would need sciences because you're dealing with patients. And for the first 5 years in university, you'll be covering biology, chemistry, and physics. Chemistry deals with the drugs. So you would need that. Biology, you're dealing with the physical anatomy, you would need that. Physics, you would need basically to know how things work. So definitely, at least, you would need some science subjects to be a medical doctor. However, there are doctors in other fields. So there's a doctor of psychiatrist, that's a doctor of physiotherapy and psychology. Those are different types. So you become a doctor, you get doctorate in that. So if it's medical doctor you're referring to, yes, you would need science subjects. Or if it's just doctorates in any other thing, maybe not.
Okay, great. And if you don't have those A levels, don't worry, and you still want to work in the NHS, we can always support you on that. So we'll talk to you about next time.
Yeah, there are other subjects you could, and the apprenticeship allows you to do that. But at the moment, to be a medical doctor, you can't do that via apprenticeship. You could be a nurse via the apprenticeship, and you do the functional skills, and they help you with your other subjects. But to be a doctor, you would have to go to university for that at the moment.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you for that. And Monty, maybe over to you.
Cool. So we've got a question from Prerna, and she said, I am aware that on local level there are CPMG groups in order to manage these challenging patients. How does the mainstream NHS deal with this?
Sorry, say that again?
So the question is, I am aware that on a local level there are CPMG groups in order to manage these challenging patients. How does the mainstream NHS deal with this? Is that a question that you think you'd be able to answer?
I'm not too sure what that has. Nah. Deal with challenging patients. Is this in regards to care? Because that is very, very broad. If I would say so.
Maybe kind of clarify your question a little bit, and then we can come back to it, and then I can just ask the next question, and then we'll come back to that if you can a little bit.
Yeah.
So the next question was, what do you think is the biggest challenge you faced when trying out different roles? And was there ever a time when you were uncertain where your career path was taking you?
Sorry, the last question was what? Was there ever a time I did what?
So what do you think is the biggest challenge you faced when trying out different roles? And was there ever a time where you were uncertain where your career path was going?
I'll start from the last question. No, I wasn't ever. I've not been in a situation where I wondered where my career path was. I've never been uncertain about it, because I really thought hard and well before I made the decision to switch from customer service to HR training. I really thought hard about it. And I was willing to learn. So the first time I was approached to train someone about it, I had to go check with other people that had done it to ask, how have they done it? How did it work? What should I do? I just didn't jump into it blindly. I did my research, then I developed a plan, and I stuck with it, and I've been learning ever since. The challenges I've had, would be travel. That's the difficult one I had, travel. When I joined Epsom and St. Helier Hospital, I was living in North London, and my job is South London. So my journey time from door to door was about 2 hours. That was difficult for me. So by the time it's Friday, I was shutting down for the whole weekend. I was exhausted. So that, I think, had been my challenge, travel. So what I did was I made sure that my travel time from where I live to where I work should be a minimum of 30 to a maximum of 45 minutes. So I moved closer to work. That had been my challenge. Everything else that had to do with job, I had to adapt to do it. So if I had a difficult, not difficult, but if I had a colleague that I viewed as being difficult, I had a conversation with them. I listened. If I found that I wasn't getting what I needed to do, I asked for help. I asked for more training, I had for support, all that. So, no. I hope I've answered your question.
Amazing. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, and then on to another one then. So from Nazra, can you become a biomedical scientist through an apprenticeship? And if so, how?
Yeah. I would need to check that for you. Hold on. Now, when you want to be a biomedical scientist, first I would say, I'm going to send you this link so that you could check, because she shows you what is available with the apprenticeship. So I need to be sure that this is, yep. So there are a couple of, apprenticeships that you could study to do this, to apply for the apprenticeship, because the apprenticeship is like you have to be in a job role, you would need to go to NHS jobs to find this apprenticeship. Okay, so when you search for a job role within on the website, put in biomedical scientist apprentice, it will bring up likely job roles, and then you could narrow it down to the area, your geographical area, and then that takes you, then you could look at what the job role is. As I'm speaking right now, I am doing that search for you. Let me see what it gives me. Okay, so I have one which is called BMS histology, and it gives you, let me see, it might be that we don't yet have that. Now, at the moment, we don't have the biomedical science apprenticeship, but we have lab science apprenticeship. So I'm going to send you a couple of links, and I will suggest that you check that website out. It has all the apprenticeships that are available, all the apprenticeships that are in progress of being developed, and all the apprenticeships that have been stopped. Okay, I don't have that information off the top of my head, but I would suggest you check that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'll suggest you check that.
Thank you. I'm just conscious of time, so Monty, maybe one more question, if we can get through it. I've seen some really good ones coming through, but
I've seen one question which I think might be nice to answer. It's from Habiba, and the question is, from your experience, is working in the NHS as stressful and intense as the media portrays, or is this an exaggeration?
No, it's different. Okay. I think how do I answer this? It's not really. Well, I don't want to say it's not, then you find out is it. It's no job isn't stressful. No today is the same. So I might come to work today and I have fun. Tomorrow I come to work and then my task is different and I feel stressed by it. It doesn't mean, yes, my job is stressful overall. It is busy, yes. A doctor might tell you that it is stressful because of their workload. Now, during COVID, the pandemic, yes, it was a bit more than we could handle. We usually handle, but we stepped up to the game. My colleagues in the clinical and medical sides stepped up to the game. They gave all that they had to helping out the community. So for that person, some people thrive on adrenaline, some people don't. But we put measures in place, and that's where myself as the HR professional support come in. We put things in place that will support our colleagues. So we have mindfulness sessions, we have occupational health, we have other activities that support our colleagues. So really, no job is without its stress, And you're asking me a question that if I answer from a HR role, I would say, yeah, there's some good days and some challenging days. If you meet a nurse who is passionate about it, she would say, yes, there's some good days, bad days, but I like what I do. If you meet a doctor that is, has that passion the same. So it is what it is. Sorry, I can't say that it is stressful, because that would say that every day is stressful. No.
That's a very good answer, though. Thank you so much for that. And I know that we've had loads of other questions kind of come in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move through now, so I'm conscious of time, and obviously what we're going to say is, so for students, thank you so much for joining us. It's absolutely amazing. I know that we do have some more questions in there. And what I'm going to ask is, any of those students that didn't get your questions answered, please do email them into student@pathwayctm.com with the fact that you're on the NHS webinar. So title that NHS webinar and write your question in there, because we can really get back to you and we can help support you with any of those questions you might have. We're just a little bit conscious of time today and want to make sure that we do keep to that hour-long session. Rachel, thank you so much for your time. It's been amazing kind of hearing about all the work that you've been doing on that project around mapping people up to the roles that might be right for them, and really your personal experience as well. I think it's really lovely to hear about your pathway into the NHS, because it's really kind of inspiring to young people to think about all those different skills you can get working across different industries as well. So really thank you for your time. Everyone who's been on the session, you will get a follow-up. So don't worry, you don't have to email into this email address in order to get answers to your question. We will follow up with a recording from today and with a little survey to ask you any questions about the session and help support you a bit beyond this. So do wait on that email to come through from us. Another kind of request from my side is that we are at the moment working through a bigger program to kind of support young people into the NHS across the country with some different trusts we're working with. If you do know exactly what role you want to get into, if you do want to be a biomedical scientist and you think you're ready to kind of commit to one of those roles, then do send us also into pathway student@pathwayctm.com your CV and that role that you're interested in, because really we want to help you get some work experience at those wherever's most relevant for you. So we're working on a bit of a project there. So do email us in your CV with the role you're interested in, and we can help support you. And do follow us on Pathway CTM on Instagram, and you'll be able to be kept up to date with all of the wonderful things that are going on. So I can always see who does it on my phone as you sign off the session. So I will know you people who have who've joined us, and it's great because then you can get onto the next session we do with the NHS, because we'll be able to update you via the Instagram. So go ahead and do that. So thanks Rachel, thanks Monty, and thank you for everyone else who's joined us.
Yeah.
Everyone.